Hello, 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 guys. Welcome to this new edition of my podcast. This is Aadit Kapadia joining you on yet another week. I shouldn't say yet another week, on a crazy week of politics. If you might have wondered, I know we said that we would bring you a podcast right after the results and right after the presidential winner is declared. So a lot of you guys might have been thinking that why is this not being done on Wednesday or Thursday? Well, because the presidential winner was declared yesterday on a Saturday. So the first available slot I'm getting Sunday morning. We're doing this podcast from US. With me, I have fellow psephologist, analyst, numbers guru. I'm not going to give him his other profile because right now this. I mean, if you guys have listened to the Mind podcast, you know who Mohal is. So I don't need to give you his bio. But this week his bio is we're just going to analyze the elections. So we're going to talk about the US elections. No, guys, we are not going to talk about the Bihar elections exit poll because the results are in 2 days. So we'll talk about the results in 2 days. I know the exit polls are showing RJD leading and stuff, and it's just the fact is there is so much to discuss in the US elections, and then we'll discuss Bihar in detail as soon as the results are out. I promise you guys that. But we have a packed week this week. We're doing 3 or 4 podcasts. You'll see. I happen to do a few live streams as well on the US elections. I've tweeted them out. You guys are welcome to take a look. It's on my Twitter handle at ASK0704. But without further ado, welcome to Mind Podcast. Mohal, first thoughts on elections before we start the fun?
Yeah, thanks, Adit. After all, it was 2020, so it can't be just straightforward. I know many people actually, many pollsters had predicted that it would be like a landslide for Biden. Now, I kept talking in my private conversations with, I think, you and many others. I kept telling that it's not a landslide, it's much closer than what the pollsters are saying. Unfortunately, this would be probably the third or the fourth cycle they would get it consistently wrong. I've been seeing that since 2014, 16, 18. Uh, they were proven right to a correct extent that it wasn't a landslide. Biden did win in the end, but it wasn't the landslide. If you remember, some of the polls were like crazy, like plus 10, plus 12 in the popular vote for Biden, which
A
make
half
complete
percent
no
in
sense.
Wisconsin, where he won by 20,000 votes, less than 0.5%.
Yeah, there was a poll like plus 17 in Wisconsin, which made no sense. Just to keep perspective, like Obama was a very popular leader, right? He won in 2008 a landslide against McCain by plus 7.2. Now, are you telling me that, Biden is going to win by 50% more margin, like 12 versus 7.2 Obama? That makes completely no sense.
Yeah, and so couple of things, right? First, let me show the results basically of our elections and how it's going. So I'm gonna share my screen and kind of show you guys what's going on. So here is the situation, right? You have the states, basically the blue wall, which was Michigan, Wisconsin, and
Hmm.
Pennsylvania. I pointed that out in the complete wrong order, but Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin are the three
Hmm.
walls that were breached. Last time, President Trump carried all the states. Now, here is the thing: in a wave election, like they were predicting, and that's what I said on the live streams also, in a wave election, this would have been a landslide, right? But let's look at the voting margins here. Pennsylvania, Biden is a projected winner. He has only a lead of 0.61%. That is 42,000 votes. That is less than what Trump had last time. Trump had a higher lead in Pennsylvania against Hillary. I think it was more
In
than
percentage wise, not raw votes, just want to
raw
clarify.
votes. It was still more than 60,000, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
it was 88,000 or something like that. Oh no,
And what they're
probably,
saying is
yeah, something.
98% of votes have already been reported. So the chances of this lead stretching to that 80,000 number is less, I would think. But we'll wait and watch,
Hmm.
right? Then Michigan. Now Michigan, here is where Biden did win by a larger margin. Mohal and I disagreed. I thought Michigan was a lot closer than this was, and Mohal kept saying Wisconsin was closer. Ultimately, that did happen the case,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
he did run him very close. The margin was about 2.5%, which a lot of
Hmm.
polls are saying are 8.5%. So that is not even within the margin of error. Um,
Yeah.
and the third state is Wisconsin, where the margin was, 20,000 votes. It was
Hmm.
0.5. something percent, 0.58, I think, if I do the math right now, or
Mm-hmm.
0.62, I'm sorry, 0.62. But my
Mm-hmm.
point is that that's how close this election was. And in contrast,
Mm-hmm.
let's look at Florida, another swing state, right? Florida,
Mm-hmm.
President Trump was far ahead by 350,000 votes, and there are still
Mm-hmm.
4% more votes to come. So who knows
Mm-hmm.
what way it might go. And as John King said, in a state like Florida, a margin of 400,000, 350,000 is a landslide.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
close.
+3 is a landslide in Florida. I mean, given the history of Florida, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
landslide.
And then let's look at Georgia and North Carolina. Georgia, the margin is less than 10,000 votes, or
Yeah.
little more than 10,000 votes now,
Mm-hmm.
0.6%. Arizona, again, the margin is 18,000 votes. It was
Yeah.
76,000 votes, but here, Georgia, Arizona has been that one weird state where Donald Trump has gotten more mail-in ballots than he and has caught up in the later phases of
Yeah,
voting.
actually, it's same election day vote also. It's like a bit of provisionals and election day votes, also.
So ultimately, what I want to say is this election was a lot closer than what the numbers suggest. Yes, there is a 4%
Mm-hmm.
differential, and that's what we were saying, that President Biden was the front runner, no doubt about that. But in the last 2 weeks, or President-elect Biden, I should say now, in the last 2 weeks, President Trump overtook him in states like Florida, Texas. Smith, or every time the liberals like to think they'll win Texas, but look, they lost by 650,000, 660,000 votes again, which was about a 6% margin. So it's not a mean, win for Mr. Trump. And I think 3% votes are voted, so that margin will probably go up to like 3/4 of a million or something, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he ran him close in a lot of states. There were states like Maine, which gave split electoral votes, where in Maine they voted for Joe Biden for president, but Susan Collins, the incumbent Republican, who had actually
Mm-hmm.
sided with Democrats on Amy Coney Barrett and the health care bill. Famously, it was Susan Collins, Murkowski, and John McCain who made sure that the health ACA bill
Mm-hmm.
sort of did the Trump's ACA bill did not pass, and
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
sort of kept the Obama era bill. It's no surprise to say that Mr. McCain, who Trump fought with a lot, normally Arizona would be an easy win for the Republicans in a year of booming economy, but because of his bitter feud with McCain, the Republicans are set to lose Arizona. So
I will disagree. Wait a few more days. If he wins 58% of the remaining vote, I think in the end Trump might pull it out.
okay, even if he pulls it out, let's face it. If he hadn't fought with McCain, I think this would have been an easy win by like 30, 40,000 votes. By now, it would have been
Yeah.
projected.
Yeah. Yeah.
Normally, Arizona gets projected at the same time as California.
Yeah, but like, see, there are like demographic shifts. So if I had to pick one of these states which would flip, the easiest, or not easiest, like one of the likeliest ones was Arizona, because you see, it's like someone told me, like it's like a big suburb, like it's like Phoenix, Scottsdale, like, and then the outlying suburb. It's like 80% urban suburban. So that's where all the suburban vote, which was anti-Trump, would come in, compared to the northern states where it's more rural vote.
And then we're going to talk about the detailed analysis in a bit.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
let's look at the House and the Senate, and then also a couple
Mm-hmm,
of states where Biden actually did do well. So first is
mm-hmm,
Minnesota, where Trump came within 40,000 votes of Hillary Clinton last time.
mm-hmm,
Because of the increased turnout in the Hennepin County, which includes
mm-hmm,
Minneapolis, St. Paul, you saw this huge surge, and Biden won the state by almost 7% margin. A huge,
mm-hmm,
right? But
mm-hmm.
Wisconsin is the new sort of swing state now for the Republicans, because
Yeah.
in the mid, and that's a sort of a change. So just as Ohio is deep purple, as my friend Mohal likes to point out to me many times, that Ohio and
No, red. No, I disagree. Red. It's not a. See, this
let's
is
okay,
the.
no, let me qualify. So Ohio is red, and now Florida is deep purple. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, yeah. See, like this is where the electorate is shifting. See, when maybe 15 years ago, like when I was new to this country, like the perennial swing states were Ohio and Florida. But now it seems, for the moment, I mean, Florida, I don't know how the history, but it might become a bit more red. But the perennial swing states swing states might be the three Midwestern states that we're looking at, and couple of the Sunbelt states.
So
So
this is
Ohio
what
is not a swing state anymore. I mean,
this is what I wanted to show to our viewers, listeners. I'm sorry, guys, if you're on SoundCloud, you will have to watch our YouTube link, right? For this. So let's look at Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade County is a county where Hillary got like 64-34 or something of a margin.
yeah,
Let's look at
two-third,
the
one-third approximately.
third, one third. Look at how much President Trump pulled there because of the Cuban vote and other votes, right? He's
Mm-hmm.
within 46, within 7%, and 7% in a county which is more than 1.5 million people. The more than 1.2 million votes were cast there. Because there are 4% still to come. It's or more than 1.1 million. It's a huge thing, right? Because then
Yeah,
you look
isn't it 1/5 of the whole Florida thing, or maybe I'm getting the math wrong?
it's not
Maybe
one fifth. I think
10%.
it's 10 or 12%, something like that. So
Yeah, so that's a huge chunk.
about 10 or 10 million or something cast. So if you just look at it, 1.2 million votes is about 10-11%, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there, and then another county, Tampa, like Pinellas County. Last time Trump won that county, and most people thought that Trump would actually lose this county in a big way. But look at the margin. It's 2,000, not even 2,000 votes. It's 1,400 votes or something, and 7% votes are still remaining. So
Mm-hmm.
Florida, I think President Trump has done it phenomenally well, except for this the Broward County and the Orlando sort of suburbs where Biden ran up the numbers. It is, I mean, look, all these rural counties, Trump's percentage was like 80-20, 75-10. And you guys might
Mm-hmm.
think that, array, but these are only 20,000. But if you get 20 counties where you run up 20,000 votes, that's a state. I mean,
Yeah.
that is what it is. So that's what swung Florida in his favor. Let's look at Wisconsin, and Mohal might want to explain this in a little bit. So what happened? This is where the Kenosha riots happened, right? And do you think that played a role in what was happening? Here is Kenosha again. Red territory, all Republican
Mm-hmm.
territory. Wisconsin is blue because of cities like Madison, Milwaukee, and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. Green Bay and everything is all Republican. So yeah, Mohal, please.
I mean, I think it's just that the what happened is that, I mean, overall in the election, if you see, the cities went more blue than usually, which is like surprising. But even the rural counties went more red than like, so yeah, last time it was probably like two-third, one-third, two-third, one-third. But now I think what, as you just pointed on some of those Florida counties, it's almost like three-fourth, one-fourth, or four-fifth, one-fifth. So I think it's just like a more polarization, like it's getting more skewed.
Hmm.
So what the tiebreaker in theory could be the suburbs. Now, if you get killed in the suburbs of these big cities, like the Atlanta metropolis or the Phoenix metropolis or the Milwaukee
Come to that in a
metropolis,
second. Yeah.
yeah,
So no, but
that's
I'm
where
saying,
you get killed.
so in Wisconsin, you think the same thing happened? Like you have the Milwaukee, right? Where, as you can
Mm-hmm,
see, Biden is winning 70-30 almost, 69.1,
mm-hmm,
29.
mm-hmm.
So the margin is so much that all these rural counties, which are like, just 10,000 votes or stuff, even
Mm-hmm.
there, Trump needs to win big like he did in Florida. But as you can
Yeah,
see, Midwest, Biden ran him a lot close. So no county has more than a 20% margin or a 30%, which is what Trump really needs if he wants to beat.
mm-hmm.
So an
Yeah.
extra 20% in these counties, which means another 25,000 votes or something, and the state is his. So it was that
Yeah,
close.
I mean, even if you look at the northwest corner, like that's like blue. So that's where like he cannot like overcome the counties. I mean, see, like if you look at how the states are like, Wisconsin is more of the, I mean, sort of like, I mean, hard to describe it, but like, the nice keep state, like, they don't like people who are like rough around the edges, like Trump and stuff. So that was the case that they might not like a divisive personality while like Trump, but Pennsylvania, which is like more bit of like roughneck kind of culture, that they might go for Trump more than
Yeah.
Wisconsin.
And you saw that closeness, right? But both states were close. But here is where I think the election in Pennsylvania was lost. First is obviously the Democrats ran up the margins in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
They were projected to
Mm-hmm.
80-20. So you already have a deficit of 400 and something thousand votes in Philadelphia and
Mm-hmm.
another 100,000 in Pittsburgh. So you're talking about
Yeah.
half a million votes that you have to get from
Yeah.
other parts of Pennsylvania. and he was doing very well in this Elk County and all these rural counties. Where I think
Hmm.
he tried to focus was on the Erie County, where the margins are
Hmm.
very close, as you can see, 47, 49 to
That's a
48.
swing county. Like usually, who wins? Erie wins Pennsylvania.
So if he actually won, say, if he won this county, got like about 30, 40 more thousand votes here, that is the
Hmm.
margin. The margin is right now 42,000 votes. You get another
Hmm.
20,000 votes from Biden to Trump swing votes. That's the state, right?
I mean,
20.
even if you look at the suburbs of Philly, I mean, those counties, those also, like, I think Biden did pretty well. If you look at, yeah, Montgomery and Bucks, yeah, like Bucks is another one. Like, see, if you slightly overperform, maybe like 5,000 votes more, it just adds up in the end where you can overcome that advantage of Biden. I think the suburbs kind of sealed his fate because there's not enough rural vote to overcome the suburban transitions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and then I promise you guys, these are the last two states you're looking, but we wanted to show you how close this election was, right? And we'll do a deep dive very soon. So, look at Georgia. What Mohal was saying, Atlanta. I mean, the differential is 250,000 votes there. In DeKalb County, another 250. So, you're talking about at least 600,000 votes of deficit
Yeah,
that had in
yeah.
Atlanta. Wasn't as
Yeah.
big the last time.
Yeah, I would be curious to. So, I mean, maybe you might not have that capability right now, like Gwinnett, which is like northeast of the Fulton County. No, just northeast, the blue county. No, no, yeah, that is like 58-40. I would be interested to see what it was in 2016 because that's like a suburb, like one of the big suburbs of.
A lot closer. It was a lot closer, and Georgia is a state that Republicans actually win by like about 7-8% of the margin. So this is kind
Mhm.
of crazy. So here is the thing. And now I'm going to come to like the sort of the detailed analysis of it all. What do you think? Why do you think did Biden win the suburbs, and why do you think Trump lost?
I mean, the Trump's personality and his statements also like turned off most of the suburban college-educated white voters. I mean, they voted away. I mean, they went away in droves towards Biden. I mean, the constant like fighting with other people on the other side of the political spectrum, plus his statements, like many of them were just flat out false and constantly attacking other people personally. I think they just like turned off most of the suburban crowd. So if you see like most of the states with large metropolis complexes, what I mean is like
Hmm,
cities plus suburbs, like he didn't do that well,
hmm.
and that's what proved fatal in the end. That I mean, he couldn't overcome that with the rural vote. I mean, he did surge the rural vote a massive amount to keep it even close. Otherwise, it would be a landslide for Biden.
No, that is true. That is absolutely true. So let's look at another scenario. I think what happened was that Trump's personality did put a lot of people off, but people were willing to look away if the COVID situation, wasn't there. I have a feeling that if there was a booming economy, this election would have been even closer, and then you would have come to campaign styles, right, where Trump had an advantage over Biden because you saw what he did in the last 2 weeks because of his campaign advantage. Where I think Biden also pulled ahead was your working class vote, the vote in the Rust Belt or the Steel Belt of Philadelphia. I mean, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Those voters relate to a Biden a lot more than Hillary, and I don't think it's anything to do with gender. Maybe in some counties it is. It is mainly to do with Biden comes from that sort of a. He was born in Scranton, if I was not mistaken, in Pennsylvania, and then lives in Delaware and stuff. Hillary was always seen as this upper East Side New York elite who spoke the polished English and stuff like that. Biden was more seen like, the way he responded to Trump, saying, "Come on, man," it was a very very earthy style of response, and that actually helps. Son of the soil just doesn't work just in India. Son of the soil also works in America because right now that is the divide. You have the sons of
Mhm.
the soil in the rural areas, which say that, oh, America had a different lifestyle. We want to go back to that and stuff like that. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that that is a sentiment that plays out. And the other side is the cities and stuff, where because of the Black Lives Matter movements this time, because of the riots that happened, because of various liberal issues or something, it's complete. There is a complete divide, and you are sort of sitting right in the middle of that divide in the state of California. So how do you see it? Because we are giving you like so Mohal is sitting in a completely liberal state. I'm sitting in a completely conservative state of Texas, but inside the state, I'm sitting in the most liberal county in Texas, one of the most liberal counties
Mhm.
of Texas, Harris County, the biggest county in Texas. So, how do you view this dichotomy?
I think, see, like, first of all, Biden lived in, like, I know he says he's son of Scranton. He lived there only probably 4 years, after which he moved away. So it's not like he had
No,
a tremendous amount of.
telling about the personality, the way he speaks and stuff.
Yeah.
That is
So
what they relate to.
I don't think that could be the case. I think Trump still won the white working class vote, maybe by a smaller margin. Trump won. So I don't think the appeal worked. I think it's still like the Trump's personality and like constant like false claims and like toxic personality. But also one more thing, I think you mentioned it correctly. I was about to come to that point, the COVID situation. So like the COVID situation, a lot of the people, I mean, Trump like downplayed it. Okay, it's just kind of another kind of flu. They didn't ramp up testing for 4 weeks. And like, I mean, I remember that Friday conference in like middle of March when he started, like, you realize, you saw it on his face that he was really scared on what it would do to his re-election chances. So I think taking it easy and not attacking it head on, unlike some countries like India where like we took it very seriously and we clamped down on it to make sure that we didn't have I mean, still we had a lot of cases, but that also turned off a lot of people. So if you look at a lot of the swing voters, they said, like, because of the COVID situation, or I knew someone who was affected deeply or passed away due to COVID. I think that also played into the situation. So I think if there was no pandemic and the economy was doing very well, Trump would have easily won the election versus losing it. I think that was his one situation to, I mean, I wouldn't say like shine out, but at least take a good stand and show like the presidential quality that, okay, you know what, this is a serious situation, let's take it. I mean, also not like wearing mask till probably like July also. I mean, compared to like Prime Minister Modi, who was wearing it even in his press, I mean, his national address to the nation. So that, I think, hurt him, that people saw that this guy is not serious about a pandemic and it's coming and it's affecting people on a daily basis, which I think just swung just enough vote over compared with the other issues to like make him lose the election. I mean, I think this is like a 2016 in reverse, right? Where we said, you know what, it's a close election, but like if Hillary had gotten, I think I remember the number, like 87,000 more votes in the three Midwestern states, the election would have been gone this way. I think this time we might say, okay, maybe Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. If I don't know the final number because they'll keep counting, like if they got maybe 100,000 more votes, then
Mm-hmm.
it would be Trump's election, right? So I think it's just like a mirror of 2016 where it slightly swung the other way. And this time, I mean, Trump, or I mean, the Democrats were, I mean, they took it easy in the Midwest last time. They were all organized and they knew what to do, right? So they were going to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Did not can I think she didn't go to Wisconsin or Michigan, one of those two states. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and Michael Moore kept saying that I don't know why they're taking it for granted, because Democrats had never lost that state in a long time, and they thought that if we couldn't win, lose the states during Bush, what is to say we are not going to lose it now? And
I
that's where
mean, the polling, that's where the polling comes in. I mean, they blindly trusted the polling that they were big time, and they didn't. I mean, this time I think a lot of the people were more vigilant that, hey, don't trust the polling. Like it could be still be wrong. I mean, still we had a massive
it's
polling. Like today, I think Biden is up by what, 3%, right? I
one of my
mean, I
funniest
don't know
thing
how
is
they can do
that
that.
day someone wrote to me on Twitter saying, "Don't bash Nate Silver. He was not completely wrong. He was very right on Minnesota, and he was very right on Ohio." And I'm like, "My dear, he was not very right on Ohio. He said 0.8% for Biden or 3%. It was 8% for Trump. You cannot have a 10% swing in a state which has more than a
Yeah,
million."
yeah. I mean, he's just a glorified poll reader to say, like, I mean, I think Nate Silver and those cut. I think, see, like after a defeat in India, we say like Atma Chintan karna padega, deep introspection. I think that Republican Party will be good. Like some cycle they will win in the future, but I think the bigger introspection needs to be done by pollsters. Like, how can you get it consistently wrong? I mean, look at I mean, do you remember like Florida in 2018, Gillum plus 12, the Democratic candidate, and he lost by like 1%. I mean, how can you be off by 13 percentage and still call yourself a pollster? So there are these like weird outlier polls. Like this time, I think New York Times CNN, or I don't know, somebody had a plus 17 in Wisconsin. I mean, like if it was a plus 17, that's even higher margin than Texas. I mean, in the heydays of
The
Bush.
problem is, as Jake Tapper said, you can't get high on your own supply. He said this on election day. Actually, I'm not making that up. It actually happened. And he was talking about the pollsters. My problem is Nate Silver is a living poll of polls. You know that NDTV does in India, where they take all the polls and
Yeah.
just take an average and put it. And the problem is none of the sort of Indian American journalists तो छोड़ ही दो जो Wall Street Journal, New York Times और सबके लिए लिखते हैं, and a few who want to get published in foreign affairs. The American journalists have the guts to call them out, because the reason is because they think that it's going to be, they're going to get mad at democratic establishment. And I'll tell you
Mhm,
why.
mhm.
Because a lot of these pollsters do the same thing again and again and use the same methodology to make, so basically limited investment and more returns to do these surveys, because they don't make money on election surveys. They make some dollars, but they make money on corporate surveys. They make money when the establishment wants to pass a law. They like do a poll. That's where like they make the non-election polls is where they make the real money. But election polls is where they get scrutinized the most. And if they keep getting it wrong, they cannot just say that we have the same model that worked and we're going to give. I mean, Trafalgar Group, which was a C minus, I think got
Yeah.
it better than New York Times this time.
Yeah, I mean, see I mean, I know like Nate Silver does the polls of polls. He also gives a rating, right? I mean, first of all, like if someone would
That's
give
it.
him a rating,
Trafalgar
he would
Group, he
say like
gives
a
them C
C.
minus, and New York Times, he gives them A plus.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I mean, see, Susquehanna, I think People's Pundit, like a polling, Trafalgar, those are like have been proven much better to be in the end. So that's a question that you need to weigh the people who get it right more than the other people. Like he says, okay, New York Times and CNI is like A plus, while as you said, Trafalgar is like I mean a C or whatever you want to call it, a grading. So you have to weigh the people who, I mean, it's not like a simple polls of polls, but like you have to weigh those guys much more. Then I think it's also coming to weightage, right? I mean, you could expect, okay, a like person like X community votes in this percentage, and you might have the percentage, okay, maybe two-third and one-third, two-third will vote Biden, one-third will vote Trump. So that is the first thing you could get wrong, right? The other thing is that percentage of the electorate. So even if you get that percentage right, you have to plug into the calculation that how much of the total electorate will be community X. So I think all those stuff, the weightage, representative sample, I think they are like screwing a big time, which skews highly democratic. I think also another issue is like response rate, right? I mean, the thing is, I mean, nowadays, like a lot of people might not have time to answer a pollster for 3 or 5 minutes, right? Or maybe 30 minutes.
The issue of trust.
Yeah, I think it's not like a shy Trump voter. Also, like you need to poll enough of them, and the thing is, somebody has to stay on the phone for like 10, 15, or 30 minutes and then give you an answer. Now, like a white working class, maybe who's like a probable Trump voter, like I mean, if he's just returned from job at 6:30 and you call him up and say like, can you answer like 30 minutes? He's not going to answer to you. I mean, he already doesn't trust you after so many polling misses. So if you don't poll enough of them, and then also put a representative sample, because what if white working class is a greater percentage of the electorate than what you forecasted, right? It could easily swing it 1 or 2%. So I think there are a lot of issues in the polling industry they all need to take into account.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's look at, and before we shut the podcast or get move to the next podcast, move to the next discussion, which is going to happen in the next podcast, where we'll do a detailed deep dive in it. This is going to be about in the next 5 minutes. We'll be closing the podcast. I wanted to show another thing, right? And basically, this is the election results of the Senate and the House. So if you see right here, you're looking at the Senate race. The 51 you need for majority, and the Republican Party has already won 48 now. One
Mm-hmm.
third of the seats go to polls, and three are going. So basically, three are yet to be called. So this time you had 34 or three, or maybe how many more are yet to be called? I think it is three.
Three.
Four.
No,
So four.
just four of them.
Four of them are yet to be called. So 35 seats are up for election, because Georgia has two that are coming for election. So here is the thing in Georgia. David Perdue, who's at 49.8, if he was at 50.2%, it would have been called, because Georgia rules say that you have to go to re-election. And so both the seats will go to runoff elections in
Mm-hmm.
January. And
Mm-hmm.
here's the interesting thing. I think with Trump not on the ticket, the Republican Party will win both. I'm pretty sure about that.
At least one. At least one.
At least one. The David
Purdue.
Perdue one they'll win. But even the Kelly
Mm.
Loeffler one, because actually, if you look at the details, see, here is what the left won't tell you. Let's look at let's look at the special election of Kelly Loeffler. Let's look at the total percentage. The Democrats got 32.9, 6.6, 2.8, and 2.2, right? Don't go with all these one percenters. Those don't matter really. But let's look at the key ones. 32 plus 6, 38 plus 2 is about 40, right? You even add 2 or 3 percentages is about 43, 44, correct? Just add the top two Republicans, 45.9%.
I think, but Ajit, it's going to be much closer. But the advantage, see, this is the weird situation. If you go back to the map, the there are like 48 called for Republican. However, there are two outstanding races. One is the North Carolina race where Tillis is leading, and the race in Alaska. So you can
Alaska,
practically, I mean,
I don't know
almost.
why they haven't called Alaska. They just love waiting. I mean, the Republican is leading by 30% margin.
Yeah.
Right?
So what I'm saying is like basically Republicans will end up with 50. So that means that Democrats have to win both the Georgia special runoffs in on Jan 5th to retain control of the Senate. So like there'll be a 50-50 tie, and then Kamala Harris will be the tiebreaker vote in the Senate. So what might happen is that I mean you can see that the Democrats were supposed to pick up like a 51-49. I mean, if I had tweeted in my chain on the election that probably I saw like a 50-50 or a 51-49 projection, you know.
Octopus Nate had predicted. I'm saying Octopus Nate because Octopus Paul was the big predictor. That is why he had predicted there's 75% chance that Democrats will gain the Senate, hold of the Senate. And here is where the calculation messed up. So the Democrats did win Arizona with a very
Mm-hmm.
closer margin, with a very close margin.
Yeah.
But Maine, look at the
Maine.
margin that Susan Collins had, 9%. This Susan Collins got around the
Mm-hmm.
same number of votes as Biden did for president.
Yeah, but see, there's another difference. Like Susan Collins was also close because you remember, if you don't get 50%, or this is the weirdness of America, every state has its own rules. They have the ranked choice voting. So if you don't get 50%, the third place votes, you have to give a choice, like number one, number two, number three. So if you don't get 50, the third guy gets added. So the risk was if Susan ended with, let's say, 49.9, she could lose with ranked choice voting because all the third party vote would go to Sarah Gideon.
But I think the problem was that the margin was so much that I don't think the third party people had more than 50,000 votes. The margin then,
Yeah.
I agree, at one point of time, the margin was only 30, 40,000 votes. But then the margin went up to almost 60,000, 70,000 votes. So
Yeah.
that is why. So, but here's the flip thing that Maine gave the exact same amount of votes to Joe Biden for president as they
Yeah.
did
Yeah. Yeah.
Senate.
Yeah.
And same for Michigan. Trump lost the state by more than 100,000 votes. The Senate
146. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
John James came to within, who's an African American Republican, came to within less than 60,000 votes.
Yeah.
So, so that's the very interesting part. That
I think the Senate is one wanted to mention, like the Senate, if you look from 14, 16, 18, 20. Okay. This time the pollsters, maybe they got the landslide wrong, but they got the Biden win wrong. But if you look at pollsters, just take a history of 14, 16, 18, 20. They have been consistently wrong on the Senate. Senate is, I think, they perform the worst in terms of polling.
absolutely, and the difference is, and here is why we keep bringing the Senate is, it is not going to be easy for Biden to govern from the left if he doesn't hold the Senate, because then he will have to govern from the center because you will have the centrist. This time was the best Democrats' best time to gain hold of a Senate because there were more than 20 Republicans up for re-election and 15 Democrats.
Yeah.
They thought that Iowa they'll flip, Georgia
Montana,
they'll flip Montana, but what happened was the
South Carolina,
right.
and Kentucky. I mean, they spent 100 million or in between Kentucky and South Carolina. I mean, I'm not sure like who in the right mind would spend 100 million on those two races because they badly lost them. I mean, like Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, they were trying to see if they could win the race.
Texas is another example where Trump actually came within like 6 or 7%, but then ended up like John Cornyn actually ended up winning. The margin for him to win the Senate was more than 1 million votes. So people did not vote enthusiastically. And lastly, the House. The House too. The Democrats were hoping. They, by the way, they've still not won the House because they're still counting votes. But they were
Yeah, I
hoping.
think if you scroll down, isn't it like Republicans have gained 5 seats?
5 seats, yes, and independents and like other parties and Democrats have lost, and there are other seats where Republicans are leading. Like in California, they've only called 4 seats for the Republicans, but if you look a little closer, they, a lot of Republicans are leading, and they haven't been called yet. So you can see. Let me bring up all the votes. So Ken Calvert, Young Kim, you're talking about at least 4 or 5 seats. Mike Garcia, these are about 5 or 6 districts that Republicans are leading. So I think what the number is should be a lot closer. Now I think the Republicans should get to within 200. Oh, certainly more than 200, maybe even 210, close to 210. So you're going to have a situation where the House majority of the Democrats is like less than 10. And you will have a lot of centrist House members not really the squad and what the squad has to offer. So
I mean, and in my private conversations, I've been telling that this was, see, after 2016, I thought it'd be a blessing in disguise. And this probably I might write a little bit more on it in the coming days, that this was the best chance with the anger against Trump to win the, like a blue wave, basically control of the three houses. Now, in case if they could still win the control of the Senate, and whatever reform or agenda they had on mind, they could potentially do it for the next 2 years. But where they failed is like they didn't flip any state legislature as of in 2020. So now as you know, the elections ending in zeros are always most important. Because why? Because the census comes in. So once the census kicks in, every state gets to redraw its district. Now some states have independent, bipartisan, non affiliated commissions, but many states, the lawmakers, which is another crazy part of American politics, they get to set their own districts. So I predict that, I mean, or maybe a bold prediction, assuming we don't have a coronavirus or a 9/11 type of event, Democrats will lose control of the House in 2022. So this is the best chance to hold the Senate and like do whatever they want to do in terms of the reforms. Because otherwise, I mean, once redistricting happens, Republicans will draw out these House districts. So they're going to lose seats. Plus, every president in their first midterm has lost seats. So, I mean, it's looking like not good in 2022 for in the House
projections.
at least.
At the projections for 2024, California and New York are set to lose a seat each. So is Pennsylvania, so is
Mhm.
Ohio. And the two states making the most gains are
Yeah, Texas.
Florida, Texas and Florida. Texas goes up to
Yeah.
41 and Florida goes up to 31. So
And
there,
all the Midwest lose is one seat. I think Ohio, Michigan, and some of those Pennsylvania lose one seat each.
even Montana and all, I mean, a few lose. So basically, you are looking at Democrats losing at least 6 to 7 electoral votes, which were a sure bank for them, and the Republicans now gaining about 6 votes, which are going to be a sure bank for them. So that also changes the contours of 270. And that is
Mhm.
when your New Hampshire, your Maines, your Nebraskas, they sort of come into the picture, because each vote is going to be interesting. And if Trump goes out, because let's face it, neither Mohal or I buy these nonsense charges that, please guys, stop tweeting conspiracy theories about how the election is rigged and stuff. For sure, have the investigation or something, but you're talking about 4 states. And what Trump said right after the election was a little disgraceful, right, from the White House. I don't think he should have said what he did. If he wanted to go to the courts, he should have just said that, let's wait, go to the courts and see what it is, rather than saying, I won the election if you count the legal ballots and all that nonsense. That was just not on, right? And all the world leaders have congratulated Biden, right? So you agree, Mohal, this election is done, right? Trump doesn't have a chance of coming back as president.
No, I mean, see, if it was like Florida, where the dispute is over one state, maybe if they have a legal case, I mean, I'm not a legal expert, so I cannot comment. Like, they could have overturned like maybe one state, like assuming they had a legal case. I'm not a legal expert. Now if
Exactly.
he's losing in like 3 to 4 states, I mean, Biden, if the trends hold today, he will win 306 votes, but I think Arizona might flip, so he might end up with 295. So it's not like a Pennsylvania flips and he wins the election, right? Like the Bush Jr. versus the Gore
I'll go.
Gore stuff, right? Yeah, Al Gore stuff. Like one state would like completely flip the election. So we're looking at 2 3 states, which is like unlikely that the courts are going to overturn that many number of states. So I think the election is practically done. The interesting thing is the two Georgia special elections, which will decide the fate going forward. How like whether Republicans hold control of the Senate, or whether it's going to be a tide in which the vice president casts a decisive vote, and like how it will go forward in 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that sums up what we were trying to say in this sort of podcast. We'll talk more in our detailed podcast. Even this was not supposed to be that detailed, but we went into it, so we apologize. But it was fun going into this.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
uh,
once we will have more data, we can discuss more details like the
Yeah, and we
demographics
would
and
have to
stuff
wait
like
a
that.
week or 10 days for it, but let's see. It's a
Yeah.
lot of exciting things are going to happen
Mhm.
within that too. This is going to be the first election where the Biden has declared victory and Trump has yet not conceded. I don't think I've seen this long time in America. So we'll do that. But before you go, Mohal, any recommendations for our listeners? Yeah, politics अभी बहुत हो गया उनके लिए. If they want to watch any non-political stuff, listen to non-political. What would you recommend?
Yeah, I think I'm watching this fascinating web series. I think you had recommended in one of your earlier podcasts, I think with, I forget who it was, but with Arnab probably, that Scam 1992, the Harshad
Yes.
Mehta, where I think it's one of the most brilliant web series ever made in India. It goes into detail how the scam unfolded, evolved, and how they investigated it. So
No, no. So what happened? I'll tell you guys what happened. We Gujaratis let everyone else make the web series, right? Then they made. We Gujaratis decided to come in, make a web series about another Gujarati with Gujarati actors, and made sure it is the highest web series in IMDb. How is that for Gujarati chauvinism? I'm kidding, guys. There is some fantastic content out there. Please don't troll me, yaar. I was really just kidding on Gujarati chauvinism because I'm going to get like about 15 tweets from people saying, "How dare you say that?"
yeah.
But no, so honestly, it's a very good show. I watched another show called The Queen's Gambit on Netflix. It's about chess, and if
Hmm.
you think
Hmm.
can a show about chess be made so interesting, watch that. And I watched another show yesterday on Apple TV called Tehran, which is about the Iran-Israel conflict. And again, it's created by the guys who made Fauda, and it so the fantastic take in the West I have in the West I see, especially in Israel, is they try to paint spies of two different countries almost in the same sort of with the brush, not in a way that who is wrong or right, because on your path to doing what the country asks of you, you have to do a lot of immoral things, and how that immoral things weighs on your mind, that is what the show is about. And it's a brilliant very well made show, so do watch it. So those are my two recommendations, guys. Keep subscribing. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribing बहुत stagnant हो गया है, guys. Subscribe to Mohal's podcast India Rising with Mohal and Kishore.
Thank you.
Follow us on SoundCloud, Twitter. जहाँ पे भी आपको follow subscribe का बटन दिखे My India उसमें दबा ही दो बस. We'll feel very happy. So no, I'm glad you guys have supported us. We'll continue to do more shows. We'll continue to broaden the scope of our podcast and have a lot more podcasts on arts, culture, and other things. Till then, it's a goodbye from Mohal and I. Thank you for joining us, Mohal, this week. Appreciate it.
Thank you.